March 7th, 2022, 2:47 p.m. Chornobayivka Airfield, Kherson Oblast. Ukrainian artillery strikes Russian position. Chornobayivka Airfield, occupied by Russian forces since March 2nd, being used as forward logistics hub, ammunition depot, helicopter base, command post. Strike is precise. M777 howitzers, guided munitions, multiple vehicles destroyed, helicopters damaged, ammunition cooking off, explosions visible for kilometers. Russian forces take heavy casualties. Withdraw temporarily. Regroup. This is first strike. Rational response. Abandon airfield. Is too exposed. Ukrainian artillery has range. Observation is perfect. Defenses are minimal. Any competent command abandons position. Moves logistics elsewhere. Russian command doesn't abandon. Returns next day. Same position. Same vulnerabilities. Ukrainian artillery strikes again. Same results. This pattern repeats. Again. And again. And again. 18 times over 2 months. Same airfield. Same mistakes. Same catastrophic losses. Over 200 vehicles destroyed. Dozens of helicopters. Thousands of casualties. All at one location. That should have been abandoned after first strike. This is Chornobaivka. This is institutional insanity made visible. The strikes continue. March 8th, second strike. Russians returned overnight. Ukrainian artillery ready. Strike. Destruction. Russians withdraw. Return March 9th. Third strike. Same pattern. March 10th, fourth strike. March 11th, fifth strike. Every day Russians return. Every day Ukrainian artillery destroys them. By March 15th, 8 strikes total. Pattern is undeniable. Russians are using Chornobaivka despite catastrophic losses. Why? Location is convenient. Near Kherson city. Good for logistics, theoretically. Except exposed completely to Ukrainian fires. Every military professional recognizes this is insane. Continue using position that costs dozens of vehicles daily. Russian command continues anyway. Strikes 9 through 12 happen March 16th and 20th. More vehicles destroyed. More helicopters lost. More casualties. No change in Russian behavior. Strikes 13 through 18 happen through April. Same results. Same insanity. Same catastrophic losses for zero strategic gain. At 11:47 p.m. April 30th, nearly 2 months after first strike, Russians finally abandoned Chornobaivka as primary logistics hub. Not because learned lesson, because Ukrainian artillery has destroyed so much equipment, the position is no longer viable. 2 months, 18 strikes, over 200 vehicles and helicopters destroyed, estimated 500, 800 casualties, all at single location. That should have been abandoned immediately. This isn't tactical setback. It's institutional failure. Demonstrates Russian military's complete inability to adapt, to learn, to make rational decisions when facing losses. Chornobaivka became symbol of Russian military dysfunction, of institutional rigidity, of command incompetence that kills soldiers through repeated predictable mistakes. 18 times. Same place. Same result. This is Chornobaivka. This is why invasion failed. Not one battle. Pattern of institutional insanity. This is MilFront. And what happened at Chornobaivka wasn't series of unfortunate accidents. Was systematic demonstration of Russian military's institutional inability to adapt under pressure, where command continued using exposed position despite 18 separate catastrophic attacks, where logistical convenience was prioritized over casualties, where institutional rigidity prevented rational response, where pattern repeated 18 times, proving command structure fundamentally broken. The question isn't whether Chornobaivka was disaster, it was... Question is why Russian command returned to same position 18 times, despite catastrophic losses each time. What institutional failures prevent learning from repeated disasters?
and what Chornobaivka reveals about Russian military's fundamental inability to adapt, making entire invasion strategy unworkable regardless of tactical competence. Official Russian statements about Chornobaivka: minimal. Some attacks acknowledged as successful repelled enemy strikes, most ignored completely. No mention of vehicle losses, no acknowledgement of pattern, no admission that same position was struck repeatedly. Silence about casualties. This silence itself is revealing.
When losses are this catastrophic and this public, satellite imagery showed destruction clearly. Silence means admission would be worse than ignoring. Chornobaivka was embarrassment. Better not mentioned, even to adjust tactics. Ukrainian statements, initially professional. Struck enemy logistics hub. After several strikes, bemused. Enemy continues using same position. After 10 strikes, almost incredulous. Again they return. Chornobaivka became running joke. Dark joke, but joke. Ukrainian forces couldn't believe Russians kept returning. Expected rational response after first few strikes. Didn't happen. Kept striking. Kept destroying. Pattern became surreal. Ukrainian artillery crews called it Turkish shit. Russians kept providing targets. Ukrainians kept destroying them. For 2 months. Stay with me. Because the detail that explains Chornobaivka, why 18 times, is going to show you that Russian military has institutional rigidity preventing tactical adaptation. When plan is established, changing plan requires high-level approval. Approvals move slowly. Meanwhile, ground commanders must follow original plan. Even when plan is obviously failing. Even when continuing costs catastrophic casualties. Chornobayivka logistics plan said, use this airfield. Plan wasn't changed despite losses, because changing requires admitting plan was wrong. Russian command culture doesn't admit mistakes easily. Easier to continue bad plan than admit failure and change. This rigidity killed hundreds, destroyed hundreds of vehicles at one location for 2 months. This is institutional failure, not tactical failure. System that can't adapt to battlefield reality loses regardless of equipment or training. Chornobaivka proved this 18 times. Let's establish what Chornobaivka pattern actually was. Strike by strike, loss by loss. Chornobaivka Airfield, Soviet-era facility, near Kherson. Captured by Russian forces March 2nd, immediately converted to logistics hub. Makes sense theoretically. Airfield has infrastructure, close to front lines, good for helicopter operations, supporting ground forces in Kherson. Problem: exposed completely. Ukrainian forces on high ground north of Kherson. Perfect observation. Artillery within range. Airfield has minimal cover. Russian forces park vehicles in open. Helicopters on aprons. Visible, vulnerable. First strike. March 7th proves this. Should have been last strike. Wasn't. Russians return. Ukrainian artillery capability. M7 howitzers provided by US. Precision-guided munitions. Range 30+ kilometers. Accuracy devastating. Plus drones for observation. Can see Chornobaivka clearly. Can calculate coordinates precisely. Can strike repeatedly. Russian counter-battery is inadequate. Can't suppress Ukrainian artillery positions. Can't prevent strikes. Can only absorb losses. Ukrainian forces exploit this. Strike whenever Russians mass at Chornobaivka, which is frequently. Because Russians keep using position. Strikes 1 to 6, March the 7th, 14. Establishing pattern. Each strike destroys 5 to 15 vehicles, several helicopters, dozens of casualties. Russians return each time within 24 hours. Pattern becomes clear by 6th strike. Russians are institutionally incapable of abandoning position despite losses. Ukrainian command recognizes this, allocates resources to strike repeatedly. Pattern is established. Russians provide targets. Ukrainians destroy them. Repeat. Strikes 7 to 12, March 1524. Pattern acceleration. Strikes become more frequent.
Russians mass more vehicles at airfield, trying to push supplies forward despite losses. Ukrainian artillery strikes whenever concentration builds. Losses compound. By 12th strike, estimated 100 plus vehicles destroyed cumulatively. Dozens of helicopters, several hundred casualties. No strategic gain. Supplies aren't moving faster. Operations aren't more effective. Just more destruction. At same location. Predictably. Repeatedly. Strikes 13 and 18, March 25th, April 30. Final phase. Strikes continue. Russian usage continues. Losses continue mounting. By 18th strike, over 200 vehicles destroyed cumulative. 40 plus helicopters. 500, 800 casualties estimated. All at single location. That should have been abandoned. Finally, Russians reduce usage. Not abandoned. Reduce. Shift some logistics elsewhere. Too late. Damage is done. Pattern is established. Chornobaivka became symbol of institutional dysfunction, of inability to...
Of command incompetence manifested through 18 repetitions of same mistake. Now the analysis. Why this happened. What it means. Institutional rigidity. Russian military operates through rigid hierarchical command. Plans are made at high levels, executed at low levels. Changing plans requires approval through chain. This is slow. Meanwhile, ground commanders must follow original plan, even when plan is obviously failing. Chornobaivka plan was used this airfield. Plan wasn't changed promptly despite obvious failure. Because changing requires admitting mistake. Russian command culture penalizes admission of mistakes. Easier to continue bad plan than admit failure. This rigidity is institutional, systematic, repeated at Chornobaivka 18 times. This is not tactical incompetence, is systemic institutional failure, inability to adapt under pressure. Chornobaivka wasn't secret, was obvious. Satellite imagery showed destruction. Ukrainian forces publicized strikes. Everyone knew. Russian command couldn't adapt anyway. Not because didn't know, because system prevents rapid adaptation. Decision-making is centralized, slow, risk-averse about admitting mistakes. This combination is fatal in dynamic warfare. Enemy exploits your positions. You continue using them. Because adaptation requires admission of failure. Admission doesn't happen. Exploitation continues. Casualties mount. Chornobaivka exemplifies this. 18 times. Logistics convenience versus tactical reality. Why did Russians keep using Chornobaivka? Convenient location, good infrastructure, close to Kherson. These advantages matter on maps, in planning rooms. Don't matter when artillery destroys everything you bring there.
Tactical reality was Chornobaivka was death trap. Logistics theory said was useful. Russian command prioritized theory over reality. Kept using position despite reality proving theory wrong. This is planning disconnected from battlefield. Map-based warfare instead of reality-based. Chornobaivka cost hundreds of vehicles, proving maps lie when enemy has artillery. Casualty indifference enabling continued mistakes. Why didn't casualties stop Chornobaivka usage? Russian military accepts casualties. Western militaries can't. Several hundred casualties at one location over 2 months would force Western command to change tactics immediately. Russian command continued. Because casualties are less important than following plan. Less important than avoiding admission of failure. This casualty acceptance enables institutional dysfunction. Mistakes continue because cost of mistakes is absorbed, not prevented. Chornobaivka killed hundreds. Russian command accepted this. Continued plan. This indifference to casualties enables continuation of failed tactics. Is institutional failing? Chornobaivka exemplifies it. Strategic impact beyond casualties. Chornobaivka's importance exceeds vehicle losses. Destroyed Russian forces' belief in their command.
Soldiers see same position struck repeatedly. See command sending them back anyway. Trust collapses. Morale collapses. Additionally, demonstrated to Ukraine that Russian military was beatable, could be exploited, couldn't adapt. This encouraged Ukrainian resistance, encouraged belief in victory. Chornobaivka wasn't just tactical failure, was strategic demonstration of Russian military's fundamental dysfunction. Visible, repeated, undeniable. This matters beyond destroyed vehicles. 3 questions from the beginning. Time to answer them. Why did Russian command return 18 times despite catastrophic losses? Institutional rigidity. Plans made at high level are not changed easily. Require admission of mistake. Russian command culture avoids this. Easier to continue bad plan than admit failure and change. Ground commanders must follow plan, even when suicidal, even when losses are catastrophic. This rigidity is institutional, systematic. Chornobaivka wasn't unique failure. Was visible exemplification of systemic problem affecting entire Russian military. 18 returns proved institution can't adapt even when survival requires it. What institutional failures prevent learning from repeated disasters? Centralized command without feedback. High-level planning disconnected from battlefield reality. Culture penalizing admission of mistakes. Casualty indifference allowing failed tactics to continue. All combine. Create system where learning is impossible. Mistakes repeat because system prevents acknowledgement of mistakes. Chornobaivka was repeated 18 times because each repetition wasn't framed as mistake requiring correction, was framed as successful use of airfield despite enemy harassment. Reframing prevents learning, prevents adaptation, ensures repetition. This is institutional failure, systematic, lethal. What does Chornobaivka reveal about invasion's unworkability? That Russian military can't adapt to unexpected resistance. Invasion plan assumed Ukrainian collapse. When didn't collapse, plan required adaptation. Adaptation didn't happen. Chornobaivka exemplifies this. Pattern repeated everywhere. Russian forces followed plans despite plans failing. Because institution can't change plans rapidly. This makes invasion unworkable. Modern warfare requires adaptation. Russian military demonstrated institutional inability to adapt at Chornobaivka 18 times. This inability affects every operation, every battle, entire invasion. Can't win war when can't adapt to enemy actions. Chornobaivka proved Russian military can't adapt. Therefore, invasion was doomed regardless of initial tactical successes. The lesson from Chornobaivka is that institutional rigidity is more dangerous than tactical incompetence. Russian forces weren't tactically incompetent always, often fought effectively, but institution prevented learning from mistakes, prevented adaptation under pressure. Chornobaivka demonstrated this 18 times. Same position, same strikes, same losses, same return. This pattern killed hundreds, destroyed hundreds of vehicles, all because institution couldn't admit mistake and change course. Modern warfare punishes rigidity, rewards adaptation. Russian military demonstrated rigidity. Ukrainian forces demonstrated adaptation. Results are visible at Chornobaivka. 18 strikes, 200 plus vehicles destroyed, 1 position, 2 months. Institutional failure made visible. This is why invasion failed. Not lack of equipment, not lack of soldiers. Institutional inability to function in dynamic warfare environment. Chornobaivka proved this. Should have been obvious after first strike. Took 18 for Russians to adjust. Too late. Too expensive. Too visible. This is MilFront. We analyze battles that define wars. Chornobaivka defines Russian military's institutional dysfunction. 18 strikes. Same position. Over 200 vehicles destroyed. Because institution couldn't adapt. Couldn't admit mistake. Couldn't change course despite catastrophic losses. This pattern repeated across entire invasion. Different locations. Same institutional rigidity. Same inability to adapt. Chornobaivka was just most visible. Most repeated. Most undeniable. Ukrainian forces recognized pattern, exploited ruthlessly. Russian forces provided targets. Repeatedly, predictably. Institution couldn't change behavior, despite losses proving behavior suicidal. This is why invasion failed. Superior equipment doesn't matter. Superior numbers don't matter. When institution fundamentally can't adapt to battlefield reality, Chornobayivka proved this 18 times. Each strike was lesson. Russian military couldn't learn. Institutional rigidity prevented it. Casualties mounted. Vehicles burned. Pattern continued. Until finally position abandoned. Not because learned, because destroyed so much nothing left to use. This is Chornobaivka. This is Russian military. This is why invasion failed. Subscribe to MilFront. Because understanding modern warfare requires understanding that institutional capability matters more than equipment. Russian military has tanks, has artillery, has soldiers, doesn't have institutional capacity to adapt under pressure. Chornobayivka proved this definitively. 18 strikes at the same position, each destroying vehicles, each causing casualties. Institution returned anyway. Couldn't adapt, couldn't learn, couldn't change course. This rigidity is fatal in modern warfare. Ukrainian forces adapted, recognized pattern, exploited ruthlessly. Russian forces provided targets. Institutional rigidity demanded it. Results visible. Over 200 vehicles destroyed. At one location. 2 months. This is warfare reality. Adaptation wins. Rigidity loses. Chornobaivka is textbook example. Should be studied. Will be studied. Shows clearly that modern military without adaptation capacity loses, regardless of equipment. Advantages. Russian military demonstrated this. Ukrainian forces proved it. 18 times. Same position. Different results could have happened after first strike. Required admission of mistake. Required changing course. Russian institution couldn't do this. Pattern repeated. Losses mounted. Invasion failed. Chornobaivka explains why. 18 strikes. One position. 2 months. Over 200 vehicles and helicopters destroyed. 500 and 800 casualties. All preventable. All predictable. All repeated because institution couldn't admit mistake and change course. This is Chornobaivka. This is Russian military institutional dysfunction made visible through repetition. Should have learned after first strike. Didn't learn after 18. Institution fundamentally incapable of rapid adaptation under pressure. This incapacity killed invasion. Killed soldiers. Destroyed equipment. All preventable through basic adaptation. Didn't happen. Couldn't happen. Institution prevents it. Chornobaivka proved this. 18 repetitions. Each a lesson. Russian military couldn't learn. Ukrainian forces exploited. War turned. Not through this battle alone. Through pattern this battle exemplifies. Russian rigidity. Ukrainian adaptation. Repeated everywhere. Chornobaivka was just most visible, most undeniable, most repeated. 18 times. Same mistakes. Same results. Same institutional failure. This is MilFront analysis. This is Chornobaivka. Institutional incapacity repeated until disaster. Real battles. Real tactics. Real consequences. Stay informed.